So firstly, thank you very much for joining us. We're thrilled that so many of you are giving up your morning to help us tackle this challenge and to learn more about the programme. I want to say thank you to all of our challenge supporters who are joining us this morning. We've got a really fantastic event planned for you and a really packed agenda, so I'm going to try and keep it to time as well as possible. We have a wide range of organisations that have both contributed to shaping this challenge and understanding the needs of our region in terms of the disruption that COVID has wrought on our live event reliant sectors and organisations. And I will go through these introductions in a bit more detail shortly. Firstly, I want to say thank you to all of our team. There's been a lot of work going on in the background getting to the point of launching this challenge from the organisations that are supporting the development of Challenge North East, namely Innovation Super Network, Sunderland Software City, and Procter & Gamble, who have been working alongside the LEP in launching this programme. The open innovation programme that we've developed, which is Challenge North East, and this is the first challenge that we're launching, is really been created to acknowledge that COVID-19 has wrought terrible damage on many parts of our economy, of our society and our communities. And we've secured a small amount of funding to identify where are the areas in which we can focus the innovative and creative problem-solving abilities of a wide variety of thinkers and businesses and organisations across the North East region to respond to those areas that have been hardest hit. So we have been working with research organisations and formulating insight into what have been the biggest outcomes and the biggest problems caused by COVID. And we've been working with stakeholders across the region as well to map out exactly what that impact has been. And we've really created this programme to deliver a few aims that we really want to focus on. Through this programme, we're trying to figure out where can we have real impact, where can we develop solutions that are developed by the right partners that will work, and how can we develop those rapidly and test them out with the communities and the customers and the users who have seen the greatest impact and the organisations that have seen the greatest impact of COVID. We want to de-risk that innovative solution development. We're conscious that businesses, particularly SMEs at this moment, are just fatigued, are just figuring out often how to survive, let alone how to adapt and grow. And we are providing 100% funding through this programme to rapidly test solutions, develop them, and then a bigger tranche of money at the end to invest in those solutions that have shown promise through this kind of rapid development process. We want to ensure that challenge supporters and solution providers benefit from participation. So both those organisations that are speaking today and others, as well as the businesses like yourselves who might be listening and who apply for the funding, get more from your involvement in the programme than you put in. We've really thought about how we can innovate effectively and make this as light touch and easy as possible, understanding all of the constraints and difficulties that our various organisations are going through at the moment. We're enabling a collaborative and a design-led approach, which basically means we'll be working closely with users and communities. The organisations that are attending today have committed to helping us test solutions with their venues and with their users and customers if it is appropriate to do so. And we will be open to having discussions around which challenge supporters might be best for those of you who are applying to test out your solutions. However, I do want to highlight that the challenge supporters and the organisations that are here, they are just some of a range of organisations who've shown interest in supporting this. And you don't necessarily have to develop a solution with any one of the organisations that's in attendance today. The point of this challenge is to develop solutions that work. And if you have knowledge of an organisation or a user base or a way of testing out a solution that you think is really needed in terms of delivering safe and engaging events for the region as a result of COVID and beyond, please do kind of put that into your application. And we will also want to promote economic, social and environmental impact. So think about when you're coming up with your idea, the kind of sustainability and the financial business model behind it, but also what is the wider benefit for the community? What is going to be the benefit for our audiences and ourselves being able to return to really engaging events, to engage with audiences we wouldn't otherwise work with? Have a think about those different values that can be enabled through the solutions that you're developing. And so a quick introduction here. We have, in scoping this, we have engaged with a wide number of venues and organisations in the event space, arts organisations, audiovisual organisations, catering organisations, anyone who's been affected by the disruption of COVID. And we've held a number of round challenges to scope those challenges. So some of you who are in attendance, you might not have had the opportunity to attend these. And you may be the type of organisation that would love to test out the solutions or be more involved in the programme. My apologies if you didn't hear about this or weren't able to get involved in time or it didn't fit in with your diary. Please do contact our team and ask how you can be involved if you are a venue or would like to speak about potentially being a challenge supporter. The impact of COVID has been rapid and we've had to move very quickly, which is why some of you might not have, this might be the first you're hearing about the programme. But whether you might want to develop a solution or might benefit from solutions, we really do want to hear from you. So please do get in touch. We are now, the 9th of December, moving into our phase 2 and launching this challenge number 1. We have a subsequent event, challenge number 2, launching tomorrow. If it is of interest to any of you, that is on adapting in-home services. And we will have the likes of North East Based Housing Associations, Northern Gas Networks, the NHS, social care organisations and others talking about how they've experienced that disruption. And we've gone through a similar process in scoping that challenge. But this is why we are here to frame all of the work that's gone into understanding what is it that our region needs to be able to deliver safe and engaging events. We have our speakers here to help frame this challenge for you. We want you to be asking them questions, use the Q&A box throughout the event. If you're watching this back live as a recording, please contact our team with the email address that is available on our website to ask any questions or to book in a one-to-one with our team. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. And the expression of interest deadline is the 8th of January. We'll be sharing the link for that at the end of the event when we're talking about timelines and how you can apply if you're interested. And we have our team on board to help you with that. And what I can promise is that we've made it as light touch as possible, both in terms of applying and reporting. So it's not an onerous process. And basically, we just want to know, what is your idea? Why are you the team to deliver it? And how does it respond to the challenge that we are scoping today? If you are successful in getting through, you can apply for up to £5,000 to rapidly develop your concept or prototype. Now that is 100% grant funded, so it doesn't need to be matched, and it can be spent on staff time or on services you need to procure to develop your solution. And it is all about rapidly testing the solution, testing it out with actual venues and audiences and seeing if it works. So that if you are successful pitching that solution that you developed at the end of March, you may be eligible to go forward for a further 100% grant of up to £40,000 for the further development of that idea if your prototype has proven its potential impact. So we have gone through working with our region's venues and some of the organisations that are attending today, among others, to understand what are the key challenges that we're facing and where are the areas where there are unmet needs or the solutions that we could really use your help in developing new ideas and new ways of working. One of the main areas that came out was the need to maybe deliver hybrid events, how COVID has changed our interaction with events, and also the opportunity for engaging audiences at home as well as in the physical space beyond kind of the COVID crisis. So how might we deliver hybrid events that provide a safe experience for in-person attendees and an engaging experience for those watching or participating at home? Another key area was how might we deliver events across multiple venues. So whilst we're still in this COVID timeframe, we can allow smaller crowds to gather safely indoors and outdoors while still experiencing the excitement of in-person events. And we can also consider as well, how might solutions or models along those lines help us engage audiences that our events don't typically engage with. And finally, how can we encourage confidence in indoor and outdoor public spaces? Even with the vaccine rolling out currently, we're not going to be back to normal immediately. And there is still going to be, I think, residual fear, particularly in certain groups, about returning to public spaces. So how can we raise that confidence and what solutions might be needed to accelerate that return when it's safe to do so? So I've probably been talking long enough, and I'm really excited to introduce some of the organisations that have been supporting us on this journey and who are going to be speaking to you today. As I mentioned, we may have other organisations that are in the audience as well. And what I would say is that if you're not on the panel today, but you do have insight, please do share your comments in the chat box as we are talking. So we have, as I mentioned, the BALTIC, the Sage, Danieli group that runs a number of leisure and social venues within the Northeast, Newcastle United Foundation, and NUFC's corporate events partner Sodexo, the Newcastle Eagles, Beamish Museum, Sunderland City Council, and the University of Sunderland, talking about some of the projects they're connected to. We've got some great representation of a wide number of venues who've had lots of different challenges, but hopefully we're going to see the shared challenges that they've experienced today. And what we want at the end of this is that you have a clear idea of how you would tackle this challenge if you're an innovative business that thinks that you are well placed to respond. And also we do want to spread this. We've had to respond very quickly, and we're really working to get this message out there. Please use the Challenge Any hashtag if you're sharing any content on social media to share insights from this discovery session that we're holding today, to highlight this challenge to organisations that you think might be potential applicants, or just to more widely engage the Northeast community. We'd really be grateful for your support in getting the message out on this funding that's available and the opportunity that's here for innovative Northeast SMEs. So, first, to our panel of speakers, if I can invite, we are splitting the event into two sections: arts and visitor attractions and sport and leisure later on. So first of our speakers, I would like to invite to take the metaphorical mic, Adam Kent from the Sage Gateshead, who will be sharing with us their lessons in live streaming.
Hello, everyone. Just unmuting. Hopefully you can all hear me. I'm just going to share my screen, so bear with me for 1 second. It looked like that isn't working. Never mind. So I'll just tap to you. I was just going to show you some image of Sage Gateshead. But hello, I'm the head of strategy and reporting at Sage Gateshead. First, I thought I would just describe Sage Gateshead for those of you who might not know much about us. So Sage Gateshead is a music centre and conference and events venue. It's based on the banks of the River Tyne. Every year we welcome more than 1 million visitors normally, and programme more than 400 concerts featuring all kinds of local, regional, national, international artists. And events take place all year round. Music making and learning and participatory activity is really important to us. It's central to our mission, and it takes place not only in the building but across the whole region. So we work with about 50,000 people of all ages who take part in over sort of 10,000 music classes and workshops every year. The building itself, many of you might know it. It's designed by Foster owners. We're home to Royal Northern Sinfonia, an orchestra, and we have a key focus on supporting and nurturing emerging artists through dedicated programs around that and festivals. So like every cultural venue, at the end of March, we had to close our doors to our audiences and participants. Someone helpfully counted up the other day for me, we think we've had to cancel over 265 performances to date. One of our first priorities going into lockdown was getting elements of our creative learning work up and running digitally. We were really concerned for some of our participants who were older and we knew were living on their own. So over the summer period, we held about 24 free to access online music sessions in partnership with Age UK Gateshead and the Older People's Assembly in Gateshead to try and offer some sort of sense of community and continuity with their group music making. We also transitioned the majority of our young musicians program online in May. So that's working with over about 200 children and young people. So we've been delivering about 15 weeks of that now. So again, someone counted for me. So that's about 4,500 online lessons we've delivered so far during lockdown. That was really challenging for us to get online. There were lots of things around safeguarding that we need to prepare for. finding the right platform, making sure that the technical abilities of both the deliverers and the young people was available. We also had artist clinics looking at health and well-being, as well as webinars on inclusion in music in partnership with Tusk Festival, and supporting 4 new artists in residence as well. So in terms of concerts, we delivered 8 face-to-face live events when restrictions lifted after the summer. But then unfortunately, obviously the second lockdown happened. But all in all, we've now 14 live streamed gigs and concerts over time now. Royal Northern Symphony is featured quite prominently in that, as well as other local artists, so including Mercury nominated Lanterns on the Lake, Richard Dawson as well. And we've programmed across lots of different genres like jazz or folk, contemporary artists and classical. We'll be finishing our 2020 program with our Christmas Cracker event, so that'll be streamed next Friday. So that's going to include artists like Sam Fender alongside Royal Northern Symphonia, the young band Voices of Virtue, who are a fantastic gospel choir. So it's a real mix, and that's going to be free to view and available on our social media channels to stream. So looking ahead, we are planning that there'll definitely be some sort of social distancing going on until at least the summer, and therefore we'll be continuing to actively stream all of our content, even if we open up the building again to socially distanced audiences. We're ready for the next round of changes. We're determined to keep as much going as we can online, bringing people together, helping young people continue their music making, supporting musicians and streaming live from our stages. And we're eager to open our doors when it's safe and the time is right. So when thinking about the particular challenges ahead and the challenge frontier, and linking both to our online work with children and young people and also our streamed gigs and concerts, we've got questions about how we can engage our audiences in a deeper way. In one of the orchestra networks we are in, it turns out that we are in the minority of those who are streaming concerts live. The vast majority are pre-recording their content, but we like going live. It creates that sort of singular moment for the artist as well. They like it, and audiences. But we want to explore how we can take advantage of that moment. How can we involve audiences before, during and after a concert? We create a sense of shared experience, both for the audience as well as the artist. So that's one of the things we're thinking about at the moment. For us, that question also reaches across both our performance work and our learning work with children and young people and adults. There are many technical hurdles that mean making music in the moment as a group is quite restrictive, simply down to having to encode, the audio and visual information, and just the lag that involves in doing that. So that's quite challenging for us. But how can we use technology innovation to support a sense of shared experience, I think, is what we're asking ourselves, both in our gigs, but also in our participatory work as well. Another thing is when we look at our audience data from our stream performance, we're very much engaging our core Northeast audience, but are not punching through into a broader audience nationally in terms of that. So we're also asking ourselves, is there some sort of innovation or some vehicle or way of delivering our content that helps us reach a broader audience as well? So that's a bit of a summary about Sage Gateshead, how we've adapted our work during lockdown, how we'll be continuing to stream and share our content online way into the future. And that's some of the questions we'd love to help in thinking about. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. I'm presuming that everyone can still hear me. I presume Sarah's, there we go.
Apologies for that technical difficulties there, Adam. Thank you so much for that, for sharing that. What I'm going to ask of the audience, this is, I think it's really important that that we get as many questions from you as possible. What I'm going to ask is that you keep your questions for each of the individual speakers for the Q&A, but please do take some notes and put those forward. You can put them in the chat, but probably the easiest thing to do is to use the Q&A box, and you can start populating those there now so our team can start sorting through them and planning what we're going to ask of the panelists. Thank you so much for your time there, Adam. I believe our next speaker is Sally Dixon from Beamish Museum, speaking about how they are making people feel welcome, although it is from behind closed doors at the moment. So just one moment, Sally, you should be unmuted.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, morning everybody. I'm Sally, I'm an assistant director at Beamish, and thank you for that, Sarah. I'm hoping everyone on the call's been to Beamish, but it's important not to assume anything. So I'll start with a quick pen portrait. We are one of the North East leading visitor attractions, and pre-COVID normal times, we welcome about 800,000 visitors per year. It's a large and diverse audience. About half are tourists and about half fall into the C2D bracket. So effectively our fastest growing segment has been families on low incomes, and I think we're pretty effective in reaching an audience that represents the makeup of the North East. We're an open air museum set in a beautiful site of about 350 acres, and we are actually open at the moment in Tier 3. We've had our Edwardian thinking caps on. It's a grounds only offer, and we're serving up take-up food, and it's extremely festive at the moment. But yeah, we are open. We tell the story of everyday working life through time in the region. And we start in the Georgian area in the 1820s, and our story runs through the 1950s. We're not a traditional museum, as I'm sure you all know. We're not about objects and cases. We aim to immerse our visitor in the past, and it's like travelling back in time. So costume staff and volunteers share stories of the region with visitors. I'm 50s today, as you might notice, but I'm not in the museum, sadly. I'm zooming from home, but hey ho. So we're genuinely of the place and of the North East. Everything in the museum has been donated to us by local people, and that's everything from teacups to large industrial objects to buildings. And we move buildings to the museum, which is quite a fascinating thing to do. And we are partway through building a 1950s town and farm, and we're expanding our Georgian area at the moment. We're developing self-catering accommodation, more catering, and things like a blacksmiths and pottery, where hopefully our visitors kind of can interact with the past in exciting new ways. And I'd say one of our key strengths is face-to-face immersive engagement with visitors on site with communities. And we're so much more than a museum. And we think if the region has a problem, we've got responsibility to try and help in some way. So we've been doing lots of work with older adults and folk with dementia, getting them out of care homes into the museum and taking part in meaningful activities that aren't about remembering. It's about kind of going back to a time when they were young and they were the experts at these things. So everything from craft to singing to just to making food together, all those sort of things. So that's COVID's completely put paid to all that. So I'm quite keen to explore how we might get that work up and running again, because it's really important. So in terms of our setup, we are a charity, and we normally turn over about 12 million, and we're about 7.5 million down in revenues this year. So we really have taken a hit. And we normally generate a modest surplus that's reinvested back into the museum, and that helps us to build new exhibits that create more interest and reasons to visit. We're normally financially self-reliant, and we're not in receipt of any public funding from councils. We rely on our visitors for 95% of our income, which is one of our key strengths. So I guess the irony of COVID is that that's left us completely exposed in the crisis. With the 2 lockdowns, the local restrictions, then Tier 3, it really has had a massive impact. So I think we'll be lucky to hit 300,000 visitors this year. So if you compare that to last year, it is quite a knock. So in terms of our festivals events programme, we use these strategically to drive new visits, and we do try and major on value. So once you've bought your limited pass, you can come back as many times as you like. So it's important that we kind of we continue to create reasons to come and use your pass, and to ensure it's always something you see and do at the museum. So generally, our events programme is based on North East traditions. So for example, April's all about transport. Our Great North Steam Fair, some of you might have experienced, is a wonderful opportunity to see steam-powered vehicles in the original context. September, for example, is about agriculture and rural traditions. So there's things going on right the way through the year normally, but we've had to pull right back on that, sadly. We've been innovating with evening ticketed events, which are a good earner for us. And we do Halloween, Christmas evenings normally, which sell out a bit like Glastonbury, actually. They're so popular, but we just haven't been able to deliver them in the same way. So I'm keen to kind of explore how we might get those up and running again in a safe way. And we've had to reduce our capacities roughly by half, from 6,000 a day to just over 3,000. So that's a big hit on secondary spend. So in terms of challenges, I've identified 4 areas that we're thinking about and that we'd love some help with. So the first one is identifying a new events model that delivers return for our business. We're a high volume, low margin business. How can we go about delivering a brilliant immersive experience on site for our visitors with low numbers that still delivers a return back to the museum? That's a tricky one. We're kind of money over right now. Evening events, this is a practical challenge and it's around visitor flow. How can we get large volumes of people into the museum within a small window of time to make those events viable? Number 3, and Sarah mentioned in the presentation, is this idea of hybrid events that have an in-person element perhaps at the museum and an interactive live online element too. We've already moved some of our learning offer online and there is a demand there from schools and they are paying for activities, and we've been doing a Zoom Santa from our pit village, which has been extremely popular, and I think we could really develop that further. So keen to explore that. And the 4th area links to our sort of social mission really, and thinking about our work with older adults and folk with dementia in particular. So we've got a huge challenge of how we go about engaging diverse audiences and involving them meaningfully in activities on and off site and in new developments at the museum. It's so core to what we do and it's become so difficult and not everyone has access to and is comfortable with technology. So we would love some help with that. And I think that's everything from us really, but thank you for the opportunity and I'm keen to sort of see what comes forward.
Thank you so much, Sally. That was really useful and a really good summary of the, I suppose, the challenges that you're looking at and the key opportunities that you see for your organisation going forward. So hopefully that's got our attendees thinking and there may be some solutions out there already that would be a good fit for that. If I can now pass the mic to Sarah Munro, speaking to us from the BALTIC about reimagining visual arts through COVID. I'm sure you've got some interesting points to share.
Hi, thanks for inviting me along today. And what's quite interesting there, actually, just listening to those last 2 speakers is really how similar. I think we all think our offers are quite specific and different. And the difference between Sally's is she more draws on the past and we more draw on the future. But actually, I think what's really clear here is a lot of the interdependence between a lot of these issues right across. So I'll try not to repeat because I think people have brought out some really, really great points there. Yeah, sorry, I should just start with Sarah Munro, the director at the BALTIC. And I think really, like so many of us, the what's happened is we've just gone through that huge upheaval. So there's a kind of general level of upheaval right across, whether it's our staff, our communities, or the artists that we work with. We've had to do very similar things, delay major exhibition, cancel things, postpone things, get things on, you know, this blend between being online and offline. We've focused very much on, I suppose, our solutioning has been around those 3 areas. So thinking about what is it our staff actually need and how do we ensure our workforce is protected through a lot of this, because I think this is really critical in terms of what's coming and what's required. So that we've been looking at some of the adaptations around, you know, all the obvious things like around home working and supporting different ways of actually ensuring our staff remain engaged. One of the things that I think is the biggest challenge just now has been siloed working practices. And I spent 5 years breaking down siloed working practices and they're slowly seeping kind of back in. It's very difficult. And actually when you've got, we have 100 staff, just under 100 staff. And so the impact and the kind of the potentiality of how you can respond and impact to things is often as dependent as, you can communicate efficiently and effectively with your staff and ensuring their ideas are coming through. So it's just, I thought that's kind of interesting one just to note, because it's not really maybe come up elsewhere, but actually it's such a critical part of any solutioning is around that. And then obviously around our artists and our communities. So what we've been doing a lot of rethinking, particularly around, we've started through the lens of when everything's coming at you, we kind of decided to just layer the challenges. And the very first one we put actually was that the house was on fire, that the planet was under deep ecological strain, and we wanted to use that as a basis for a lot of our rethinking. So beginning to look at things around sustainability and how do we build back actually participative democracy and the common good, and acknowledging that kind of sense that we're interdependent across the region, and therefore how do we look at those kind of solutions, and our audiences often work across as well. So we've been kind of doing a lot of that background thinking. For those that don't know, we are, you've probably spotted us, it's a very large building on the banks of the Tyne, the Baltic Flour Mill. So one of the things, again, I think is kind of as a bit of a backdrop, but is a kind of interesting, is the places like Sage and Baltic were very much born out of the last economic, with the sort of collapse of the industry, the old industry, and that sort of sense of a cultural-led regeneration model for the region. So we've been doing quite a bit of thinking about what does this next economic kind of challenge, what's the downturn, and actually what is the different solutions. So the solutions to the last one were very much about building a buildings infrastructure and really focusing actually on that kind of, it was very capital focused in a sense, the kind of following the post-industrial kind of decline and what came out. And I think now one of the things we have been thinking a lot about is that digital infrastructure, and actually what the role that digital plays in a lot of this solutioning, I think, is something that a lot of our, is probably a common theme around quite a lot of what we've been thinking about. And it's an interesting one because actually where we've lost audiences, we've gained other audiences. So there has been a sense of a kind of democracy, if you like, or a kind of more democratic access to engaging, to participating, but at the same time, that's absolutely loaded in a region that's got the lowest digital access in the UK. It's got some of and it's not just the hardware, it's often that people can't afford the bandwidth, they can't afford the Wi-Fi. Sharing a screen on Zoom, for example, uses a huge amount of additional bandwidth. So we're working with young people who actually are in, really quite financially challenging sort of context, then actually how you find ways of engaging that are part of the solution too. So what do we do? Practical adaptations, very similar to what others have talked about. You do the obvious things, the one-way systems, the masks, the walk-ups, the bookings, the limiting capacities, ensuring and I think one of the challenges Sarah laid out at the start is a really critical one, is how do we build the confidence to get people back? So we know that when we've had people in the building, we've had absolutely phenomenal feedback about how COVID safe it feels. We've obviously brought the unions with us on that conversation to build. And I think there's something there around how we build that across the region that is going to be incredibly important. Events is really one of the critical ones. It's also one of the primary ways that we would engage a really diverse level or diverse numbers of audiences. Many people will come. In some ways, visual arts has been one of the success stories, if I can use the word success in a pandemic, in that out of a lot of the art forms, it's the galleries and museums that have been able to open first. We immediately went into doing what we were calling analog work when we first went and closed the building. So we were doing work in communities. We were distributing a lot of creative materials, creative care packages, collaborative newspapers with a lot of creative content in them for those that didn't have sort of digital engagement. So there's been a lot of very different kind of responses. The education programme, very similar. Where we've one of the huge challenges, we would have maybe 30, 40,000 school children through in any one year. And how do we ensure they're still gaining access as we're filming things? We've made a lot of our exhibitions available online digitally, three-dimensionally. We're exploring and pushing a lot of that. But so much of our work is we do a dance programme, we do where we're developing new performances with young choreographers and young dancers, but within the kind of visual arts community. obviously a really significant number of, our basic business model is predicated on a quite transactional model of when people come. So if they park in our car park, if they buy a cup of tea when they're in, and then they maybe buy something from the gift shop, and, on the backdrop of like very many other venues will be similar, where our self-generated income will come through things like weddings, conferences. So we've seen about a 90% collapse in our self-generated income. We are very lucky in that we're the largest visual arts organisation I think we're the largest venue in the UK that doesn't have a collection. So we do not have a collection. We commission and produce everything that we do from scratch, or often very much in collaboration with international. So I suppose that's some of the context of how, now normally in the 3-month period, we opened from August the 10th until we had to close again on the 4th of November. In that period, we had a 70% reduction in our normal audiences, and obviously when we're closed, we have none. So this starts to it impacts into the business model, which impacts into our ability to do and be and enable solutions to support the region, etc. going forward. But I think for us, so there is very much the business side, and I think some of the things that Sally laid out are very similar to the challenges. How do we get high volume back into the building at certain points? Visitor flow is one of the delights of a big building like BALTIC, is that actually the visitor flow has not been a massive issue for us. We're one of the very few, I think us and Stage and some of the museums are the few buildings that are big enough to have people in them and still maintain really safe distancing, etc. And people feel very kind of safe, the feedback we've had from that. But beginning to really think about some of those more hybrid models. And I think what's really at stake, one of the questions Sarah asked me to kind of, I've realised I've not really stuck to my notes here anyway, but that Sarah asked us was about what did it kind of mean for the future. And I think one of the things for me is, yes, it is about the business model, but it's also about our basic humanity, isn't it? It's who we are, it's how we connect with each other. And so the impact of venues like BALTIC into supporting, whether it's resilience and social connectivity right through to, and that to me is one of the most critical things. It's what COVID has kind of taken from us is, it thrives on the very thing that we thrive on, which is connectivity, being together, sharing things. And I think that's the most important thing, beyond maybe having to survive as an institution, but, I think that is that sense of how do we create those experiences for people that are really meaningful, that we know people are craving. The feedback we got when people first came back into our building was really quite moving, and in terms of what people articulate and what they'd lost by not having that space or that sense of connection. And above all else, a lot of the kind of the positives that can come from something like this, and how you build things back on an equitable level. I think digital has a huge role to play in this. So I think rather than one specific challenge for me, it's around how do we really begin to think more innovatively about how we use some of those new technologies to ensure we keep taking forward those that are able to come back in person, and also ensure those that can't. And I could talk for ages.
Well, thank you. Well, Sarah, I'm just going to interject here, just to build on all of the amazing things that have been shared. Sarah, thank you. Sally and Adam so far. So hi everyone. As Sarah said, I'm Alison Freer, part of the Challenge North East team. I must say, first of all, thank you to all of the panelists and contributors so far, both in prepping for this event and also listening to the contributions so far. I'm actually feeling quite moved and also feeling that kind of sense of passion and in some ways missing all that these wonderful organisations provide for us here in the region. So I would love to build on that passion that is shared amongst all of you, and many of those I'm sure in the audience, and just introduce to build on the 3 sessions we had already. I'd love to ask Sheryl McGregor from Tyne Museums, and then also Suzy O'Hara from the Seascapes project at Sunderland University, just to join our panels here. And Cheryl, thanks for joining us. I'm sure much of what you've heard you'll empathise with. Can I ask, given all that you've heard from Adam and Sally and Sarah so far, at Tyne Museum, so we've got the Great North Museum, the Discovery Museum, we've got Arbea, Segedunum. If some of the solution providers who are sitting here in our virtual audience today could help you solve problems and challenges over the next 4 to 12 months, what would you love them to be?
Well, the biggest challenge for us, I mean, it echoes what everybody else has said, obviously, but for our big venues like Discovery Museum and the Great North Museum, their USP is all about them being hands-on, interactive family venues. And obviously that's how children learn, through using their senses, through curiosity and play. And at the moment, well, not at the moment because we're closed, when we've been able to be open under the kind of social distance and restrictions, it makes the environment so sterile. All the interactives have been stripped out. Our staff can't get as close to engage with them in events and activities. And that just sort of kills that experience and that sort of exploratory way that families enjoy our venues. So for us, the challenge is very much about it. Well, there's lots of challenges, to be fair. We could all talk for ages about the challenges, but the specific one that I've picked out for this is around how do we engage children in those interactive venues so that it isn't just a really traditional, old-fashioned, sterile experience, and they can engage with the collections, engage with the stories, and have a multi-sensory experience when they visit the venues.
Wonderful, yes, and I'm sure anyone with children, it's the hardest thing to say don't touch, because it's a natural instinct for young children. We'll hold that thought there. For anyone listening in, I really encourage you to be thinking about who are the types of users and groups that you're hearing mentioned this morning. So Cheryl's just mentioned families, especially with children. We've heard other speakers talk about those who might find it difficult to physically reach a venue in the best of times, and even more so now. I'm going to ask also if we can invite Suzy O'Hara to unmute, or colleagues with the magic buttons to unmute Suzy. Suzy's joining us from a really exciting programme at Sunderland University called Seascapes. So Suzy, I'll give you a challenge of a 60-second intro, and then can you share with us a little bit more, anything else about the challenges you would like help in solving over the next 4 to 12 months.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Alison, and thank you so much for the opportunity for being here. So I'm a research fellow in the Faculty of Arts and Creative Industries at the University of Sunderland. But as Alison says, I'm also the project lead and just begun to develop a 2-year creative engagement project for Tyne to Tees Shores and Seas partnership scheme known as Seascapes. The Heritage Lottery Fund has showcased its commitment to coastal and marine heritage in the northeast of England by awarding significant funding to Seascapes over the next 4 years. It has a marine and coastal footprint that covers from the River Tyne to the River Tees and 6 nautical miles out to sea. And it's the only scheme of its kind to ever be supported by the Heritage Lottery Fund. So it's a real coup for this region. The project is being hosted by Durham County Council and has taken 4 years of detailed planning and preparation by a rich consortium of organisations, local authorities and universities, including Durham Wildlife Trust, Northumbrian Water, the National Trust, etc., and ourselves. So the current COVID pandemic restrictions have amplified a range of physical and cultural engagement challenges across the project footprint. And it's very much our hope that attendees here might help us explore solutions that catalyse some of the unforeseen opportunities that can help us realise our mission. In the kind of context of my time limitation, I'm going to skip through to my challenges that I feel would be worth tabling here. So the first one is very much, again, just, resonating with what's already been discussed. But from our side of things, how might we develop hybrid, so digital with physical events that facilitate active network participation and engagement with our hidden marine heritage in particular? There's 400 shipwrecks underneath the sea, 6 nautical miles out to sea. How do we engage with that? With physical visitors to the Seascapes coastline. So the second one is about how might we best use live stream data and possibly AI to direct physical visitors to lesser known and populated and therefore maybe more COVID secure points of geological, industrial, wartime and cultural interest across the Seascapes initiative. And then the third question is around how do we protect our vulnerable geology of the Seascapes coastline from the negative impact of surging coastal visitors, which is a wonderful thing and a blessing as well, through facilitating maybe mass engagement with the area's thriving biodiversity. So through that education piece, how do we kind of highlight the vulnerability of this coastline area as well? That's me.
Well, Suzy, thank you. I hope for those in the audience, that's put something else on your in your mindset about some of the challenges that we've got to solve here. And another factor in all of it is, as well as dealing with COVID restrictions, what might be the opportunities to create something bigger and better and more inclusive in the future. So just before we move on to the second part of our event, thank you so much for that, Suzy. Yeah, thinking about shipwrecks, I'm thinking about Romans, I'm thinking about the 1950s. We've got it all in here so far. For the panelists in the first part, we've had children, we've had coastal visitors, we've had the those who have vulnerabilities that mean that they can't visit and access our great venues. Please do put in the chat any other groups, if you could summarize for panelists so far, any other groups that you most want solution providers to be thinking about. What I'm going to do is move us along as time is marching on with us, and move back into another part of our vibrant economy, which is our sports, a wonderful sports and leisure sector. It's something that is really, along with, I think Abigail Pogson of the Sage said that, you know, that football and music and culture are all part of our region's passion. So with that, I'm going to invite Jenny McNamee of who is part of Sodexo Newcastle United's event management team. And if my colleagues could also press the magic unmute button for Jenny McNamee. Jenny's got a really fascinating journey that I think, Jenny, when we spoke before this, little could you imagine some of the challenges you'd take on this year, having gone from running events at Newcastle United. So I'll leave you to tell your story. Again, I'll give you the 60-second challenge, and let us know what are some of the things that you've learned from dealing with COVID. And again, what you would most like support with from solution providers.
Brilliant. Well, morning everyone. Firstly, lovely to meet you all on in this virtual roundtable event. So as Alison said, I am the sales manager, so I deal with all of the meetings and events at St James's Park on behalf of Sodexo. So similarly to a lot of you, you and your venues and destinations, we've had a lot of different challenges to face regarding capacity, social distancing and things like that. I suppose for us as Sodexo, we are a multinational company, and we have lots of different sectors: sports and leisure, finance. We work closely with the prisons and the hospitals and things like that. And more recently, we've actually been running the COVID-19 testing centres. So from the end of March to the beginning of August, I was actually running a COVID-19 testing centre at Biker in Newcastle. So that was a completely new and different experience for me. One of which I didn't think I was ever going to undertake. It was really, really challenging, and in some areas rewarding, because you were learning a lot about yourself and a lot of new skills. And I suppose how it's benefited us as a venue is a lot of my colleagues and across the multiple departments, whether that's chefing, operations staff, cleaners, things like that, we've all been brought together to still work as a team at these COVID testing centres. So similarly to what Sarah picked up earlier when talking about the BALTIC, is we have managed to still kind of keep that team unit, but almost in a very, very different setting. Again, a challenging setting, one of which I would safely say I'm not keen on going back into, but it's one that I've really learned about. So for us, it was about keeping the team together and still engaging the staff. Thankfully, I am back doing my sales role 2 days a week, and now I'm managing COVID health and safety across our local testing centres. A lot of my colleagues and team are still at the test centres carrying out, facilitating the tests and ensuring safety. I suppose a benefit of that to us as operating as back as a venue, as a stadium, is that a lot of our staff are now very comfortable in understanding the needs of PPE, the correct disposal of PPE, social distancing measures and things like that. So I think for us, we will benefit as a venue that our staff have undertook a lot of new training in facilitating these COVID testing centres, and that will benefit us moving forward. We have done a couple of events in October, and we're currently doing one at the moment, which is NHS training for the new COVID hubs at the hospital. So we're thrilled to have the doors open for those sort of events, and we've managed to facilitate them under the COVID secure guidelines and things like that. But it's been a very different experience, and it's so interesting to listen to all of the different speakers regarding your venues, because again, I think we've had similar challenges, but it's really it's really empowering to hear so many success stories, again, if you can say that, off the back of this pandemic. So that's me in 60 seconds.
Thank you so much, Jenny. That was really great insight, and it's amazing how, I think if we all reflect, maybe it'll be kind of over the Christmas period, how much we've had to adapt. And I think that the challenge and the anxiety of so many of us who've been trying to keep venues open has also been the sort of camaraderie we've had with our team. So it's been really interesting to hear that and to hear kind of your insights. I think particularly from the, your insights in the corporate space, anything further that you can share during the Q&A regarding what opportunities you might think, or what solutions you think might be beneficial in terms of the challenges with the return to those corporate events as well, would be incredibly valuable. We have your colleague at the NUFC Foundation as well available to join. I believe Sarah Metcalf, if you just give me 1 second, making sure that I can unmute her if she is available to speak.
Yes. I must apologise. I've just recently I literally got a new laptop yesterday, and this is the first time I've used it, and I don't know why my camera's not working. So I'm not being rude, but hopefully you can hear me.
We can, Sarah, thank you. And these things happen. Please do. Yes, so we're really fascinated to hear. I understand that obviously Foundation does a lot of work in the community, and that has been massively disrupted. So we'd love to hear that.
Yeah. I suppose just for people who don't know, so Newcastle United Foundation is, I suppose, the charitable arm of the club. We are independent from the club, but essentially our mission is to use the brand, go and engage with vulnerable young people and deliver sport, health, educational projects. So I think COVID has been a huge challenge, as it has been for everybody in numerous parts of the business, but really in us engaging with those young people. I mean, the strength of our foundation and our staff is that they can build really close relationships with these young people, gain trust and really help them, and it's kind of boots on the ground. So the fact when COVID hit, we just completely, I suppose, decimated initially what we could do, because we couldn't get out there into schools, community venues. Obviously with the second lockdown, we have been able to go back into schools because of obviously the COVID health and safety and the real hard work that the team has done. I think and again, I suppose this week has been this past couple of weeks has been good because football can get back due to the relaxation in lockdown. I think for us, I suppose how we responded, it was different for different groups of young people that we work with. We couldn't do that big kind of group 60 kids on a Friday night playing football to really tackle kind of antisocial behaviour. So I suppose what we did, we looked at more kind of online kind of activity packs, things like one-to-one buddy calls, much more kind of targeted interventions. But I'll be honest, it probably didn't have the same amount of impact because that face-to-face is really key to what we do. I suppose where it was really, I suppose, a positive influence, it's kind of driven our employability model. So a lot of the young people that we had relationships with, so these are 18 to 24-year-old kind of neat young people that we need to get close to the job market. For those we had a relationship with, so we give them 2 years kind of mentoring support. The COVID was, I suppose, it was an opportunity in that respect because we delivered a lot more online. We did virtual site tours with employers, we did skills sessions online. Lots of young people that were potentially nervous about talking in a face-to-face group setting have become a lot more kind of open and more comfortable because they're talking via, I suppose, online and on Zoom, and that's helped build up their confidence. I wouldn't say it's a silver bullet and we would do everything online, and I think you'll probably, you've talked a lot about this today. It's going to be this blended approach. I think we know we can use online more to engage with these young people through kind of mock interviews. Probably the technology we're using, is it the best sort of technology? Probably not. We're having to use Zoom in breakout rooms and it's okay, but is there much better ways to engage with these sort of young people on a one-to-one level or in groups online? I suppose another challenge is how do we make some of our material more engaging online? So we've got some great, I suppose, activity packs, books that we can use with our participants, but transferring that to online, when you're thinking about some of the online activities some of the educational providers provide, that is quite a challenge for us. But I think what we've learned is that face-to-face is really key, but we can now use digital much more effectively. I suppose in linking in with maybe some of the other sessions, we have to fundraise. We have to raise £4 million every year to fund our programmes. So we have fundraising events that we speak to Jenny about, and we have our big annual fundraising dinner at the stadium every November. We do golf days, Great North Run places, all of that. So I suppose the online face-to-face events has been decimated a little bit. I think for us, we took a decision to not, I suppose, get into this online events sphere heavily, potentially due to resource and potentially really because of return on investment compared to other types of fundraising that we do. But it would be interesting to again get some thoughts from people as to there are so many charities doing online events, online quizzes, and how do you make your online event kind of stand out, because there's so many people doing it, and are they doing it that well? I mean, for us, we have to raise unrestricted income, which is why events are so important to us. But yeah, I suppose that would be interesting to see if there were any thoughts on that. But yes, is that 5 minutes? I didn't want to talk too. I didn't want to talk for too long.
Fantastic, Sarah. No, that's really valuable, and it's really I'm just really impressed, I suppose, with all of the speakers and you know, yourself and Jenny, how you have pivoted massively to this this huge challenge that you're facing, still engaging the young people in the communities as best you can. Jenny rolling out testing centres, which is absolutely not her skill set, but the way that teams come together has been really impressive. So we are getting some questions through. I'm going to keep any questions that do come through until we get to the sport and leisure panel, which will happen after our next speaker, who is Gemma Dishman, joining us from Danieli Group. Danieli Group have a number of venues which Gemma will share in much greater detail. But as we all know, the leisure and hospitality sector has been massively hit, and we're really keen to hear your solutions if you are developing them, as to how we can kind of support this sector in returning to maybe not returning to normal, but maybe kind of building back better from where we were previously. So Gemma, please, over to you.
Hi, I'm the Marketing and Special Projects Manager for Danieli Holdings. One of the main arms of our company is leisure, and probably what we're most well known for is Stack in Newcastle. In September, we opened Stack in Seaburn and Sunderland in the middle of a pandemic. And we have got YOLO Ponteland, YOLO Townhouse, the Mudland destination. So just going through the slide deck there, just to show you some images so you're familiar with these venues. So Stack is a very unique venue compared to the more traditional leisure spaces. And when I was pulling some of the work together for this last night, I digged out a presentation I put together last year, and in the introduction I've put, in a world where things no longer matter and experiences do, we use the architecture of shipping containers to heighten the experiential element of physical space, creating a sense of place where people of all ages want to come and spend their valuable time. Reflecting on that now, how do we do that going forward? That's really key. One of the quotes that I've got down here is, over the past decade, psychologists carried out a great deal of research proving that in terms of happiness and a sense of well-being, spending money on new experiences is much more profitable than buying things. It brings more joy. And we've kind of moved away from all of that due to COVID. Our venues are places for people to come, have a great time, enjoy themselves, spend time with family, friends, work colleagues, celebrate, eat, drink, you know, which we've all not been allowed to do. One of the other interesting stats I pulled out from this report from 12 months ago is 85% of UK consumers prefer to eat out rather than dine at home. How will that change going forward? People haven't been able to. Are they going to come back in force? And I suppose around all of that is we've got the hospitality is remaining closed in most tiers or has heavy restrictions on it. So we've more or less been demonised in the press and by the government that we're not a safe place to come. How do we change those perceptions? How do we, when actually the science doesn't really support that? Our stack venues are outdoor venues, so they are very safe, but our capacity has been hugely reduced. Pre-COVID in Stack Newcastle, you could get 1,600 in there. At one time, we can now get about 350 to 400, where everybody's got to be seated. Stack is, I'm kind of going to focus a bit more on Stack because it's such a more unusual venue than the other ones, in that it's home to a lot of independent traders. So the idea is that you go to Stack, you sit on a big communal bench with lots of people, you go and eat at a variety of different street food traders. They're all independent businesses. You know, we have pop-ups in there like Hadrian's Teepee, the Ice Bar, and we're constantly changing the internal plaza area to keep people coming back time and time again. So, you know, some of the things we've put in place are we've got an app that you can order table service from. That was a huge challenge because they're independent businesses. So getting even just the element of paying for something from one and it going to that trader, you know, and not coming to us to then us have to give them that money back. You know, there's all of that back end of infrastructure that has been really key. And then one of the other things I really wanted to touch on is that our venues should be a place you can come and relax and have a nice time. And our staff are finding that all they're doing is saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't talk to your friends, you must sit down, you can only stay for 2 hours, please leave. I mean, when in a hospitality business, would you ever tell somebody they have to leave your venue? And the restrictions are putting so many constraints on us that that's what we're facing. Our customers our staff are dreading reopening and having to enforce all of these government guidelines on our customers, checking they're from the same household. How do we know? How can we prove that? And we've had what's even more surprising is how many people don't actually understand that these are government restrictions. The amount of people we've had saying it's, you know, I don't want to leave track and trace, you shouldn't be asking for that as a venue, when that we're not doing that, we're not implementing that, we are being forced to implement that. Customers not paying it, you know, asking, oh, I want a book next week. And we're like, well, do you know that we're coming out of tier 2? You know, there's demand there from customers that they want to come back, but we can't facilitate it. We've been on a roller coaster of taking bookings, cancelling bookings, doing refunds, you know, that whole host of challenges that really aren't suited for the hospitality our leisure industry. We're meant to be a welcoming place. People want to come and have a really good experience, and they can't, and that's going to continue with the heavy restrictions. I mean, if you come out in tier 2, you can come out for a meal and have alcohol with a meal, 2 hours. So are you going to come out just for those 2 hours, or do you book in at various places to have a night out and put a stone on at the end of the evening because you've had to eat a substantial meal at each one? There's lots of mixed messaging about what is a substantial meal. So for the hospitality industry as a whole, this is just a huge challenge, and we can put, we've put extra cleaning in place. We've had videos produced that we put on our big screens in Stack that talk people through what we've done to give them comfort. But essentially, the experience is becoming damaging, and especially in our new venue in Sunderland, that's all they've ever known that venue to be like, is that it's full of rules, full of restrictions, and actually, you can't sing along either with the singer on the stage. It's just how we change that atmosphere around under the circumstances and make it a more comfortable experience, and try and keep that social element, which is really key to the hospitality. It is about socializing. The other thing I've put as a challenge is, how do we keep up with the ever-changing messages? We've had signage for one thing, we changed the signage, we got one bit of information, you can book, you can come with your family indoors, you can't, it is just a minefield that all puts extra cost as well onto the business. And I think another point to raise is that some of these restrictions are labour intensive. So actually, where you might say, well, we can reduce staffing because we've reduced capacity, they're more your touch points with the customer, doing table service, communicating with customers. It's very labour intensive. Where our staff, the GM at Stack Newcastle said when we reopened post the first lockdown, that it was as hard work, if not harder work, than it was on a Saturday in December pre-COVID, where we were at capacity, and the staff were, where we were taking lots of money. So it's balancing that labour intensiveness with the amount of money we're taking, and how we kind of find our way through that.
Well, Gemma, it's Alison here. Thank you so much for sharing a really compelling insight into your businesses, and really helpful to understand it from different perspectives. So your employees, your customers, very helpful. I'm going to pause you there, if I may, and ask to draw in a question that we've had from the audience, which I might first ask Jenny McNamee to come back on, and then Gemma, I'm sure you could add to it. And it's really, I guess, building on this public confidence and experience. And the question is really about how might people that are running corporate events overcome some of these challenges, and is there an opportunity, just sort of paraphrasing, as some countries have started to do, to use corporate events as the first foot back into opening up and rebuilding confidence. So I wonder, Jenny, if you're there, if I could ask you just to respond to that. What's your experience so far in feedback from corporate or corporate clients? Then I'm going to open up to the wider panelist discussion. So Jenny, are you there? Oh,
thank you.
There you are. Yeah. So what's been your experience from corporate clients, first of all?
Yeah, so we've it's been very different across different corporates. Essentially, the message we're getting is that they generally do want to come back and have these, conferences, events, face-to-face meetings, and things like that. But for us, I suppose, as a venue, we've wanted to be really transparent in all of the measures that we've got in place and have that constant communication. I think what I've seen is that clients who have maybe used us for years are still, or maybe, you know, asking a lot more questions regarding events, regarding like what people have touched on, the flow of people coming in and out of the venues, how a space is going to be socially distanced. We've worked out all of our capacities across all of our suites with a 2-metre rule, but we've still had clients that have come in and brought their own tape measure, and because I think they feel there's a big onus on them as that corporate, as that event organizer for their company, to, you know, to understand that the measures are, you know, the measures are in place and everything's being followed. So people are a little bit, well, I say a little bit, are quite nervous about attending events, and I suppose it's just, you know, having that customer care and taking them right from the initial booking process to greeting them in reception, and just letting them know all of the measures and you know, restrictions that we have in place. But again, it's kind of ensuring that we're conveying that in the most personable way, so that, you know, you're trying to still build that rapport and have that friendly atmosphere whilst, you know, encouraging them to utilize the track and trace and sanitize, and it's finding the balance. And I think, you know, we talk a lot about, similar to what Gemma mentioned there, about these aren't necessarily restrictions that we want to put in place as a venue. We're having to follow those government guidelines, and we hope that you will adhere to that as a client, as a visitor, to allow us to resume some sort of normality. So it's promising that people do want to get back, and I suppose for us it's just, we have had to similarly again enhance our staff coming in to ensure that, you know, we're monitoring the flow, people using the lifts, people using the staircases, again, the cleaning, the touch point cleaning, that's all, you know, had to be encompassed as well. And we've tried not to enhance our costs to balance that out. So it is finding a balance, but for us it was looking after customers, retention of customers, and being flexible with them. So if they don't want their event to go ahead because they feel like their event can't go ahead and be the best that it can be with these measures, we've, you know, moved that event to a future date without them incurring any additional charges and things like that. To, you know, customer retention's crucial for us.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jenny.
No problem,
Yes,
no
it's
problem.
I'm just, today I guess is about a taster of all of these themes, and we will be able to dive more deeply into them. If I can also ask, I think we have Dan Black from Newcastle Eagles in our virtual audience, and we've already heard an element from Newcastle United, you know, that the sport is also as much of part of our culture. Dan, at Newcastle Eagles, what are some of the challenges you still face in getting back to the vibrancy that you want to in 2021?
Yeah, thanks, Alison. I think that what's been really interesting hearing what everyone's been talking about, particularly from the arts and visitor attractions side of the discussion as well, is that we see so many similarities in the sense of trying to get public back into the space that we have, back into our games for both the men and the women. But because of government restrictions, we haven't actually still been able to do that. Back in September, we were the DCMS pilot game for indoor sport in the UK, which unfortunately, due to the sort of increase in infections, actually had to be cancelled, along with a number of other events. That same week, I believe the Unity Arena at Gosforth Park had to close, and I think a load of scheduled football attendances had to be cancelled. And I think that we faced so many very similar challenges to everybody else. And you know, some of the things, that opportunities for some of the people who are perhaps in attendance today would be the way that we do, as some of our sort of like counterparts in Sodexo, as Jenny was just saying there as well, we were talking about, is that, you know, how do you actually do the things that you used to do? How do you keep that revenue up? A number of people in arts and also sport and leisure have talked about secondary spend. As Gemma Danieli Holdings was saying before, that, you know, they obviously want to make sure that they can still keep all these bars and concessions ticking over. But of course, as Gemma touched on, to do that in a social distanced way with a reduced capacity means you've got reduced revenue, but also then, you know, you've got to find a way to deliver this to people's seats. You've got to find ways to actually make that whole thing work, which can be more labor intensive. So there's an incredibly difficult balance of cost versus your revenue. And I think that, you know, those are challenges that we're all facing. And then it's the mechanics of how do those people actually order their drinks or whatever it is that you're providing to them. And there's a number of solutions in place, but then it's doing something which everybody who's coming into the building can actually connect to. Can they use the app? Is there a way that they can actually do that easily and in a managed way? So these are all challenges that we've been facing and considering. But I think that one thing that we've found has been incredibly important to our planning for events, the DCMS pilot, and then also looking ahead towards, if we do hopefully drop into tier 2, we can start welcoming back. I think it's going to be around about 800 people into the venue to sit in a socially distanced seat map, which we already have set up and ready to go. And we're really excited to do in September, but now here we are in December. It's actually the zoning of the people and the flow of people around the building for that as well. It's how can you get 800 people into the building, but keep them safely away from the players and the other people that you need to kind of keep in some kind of bubble. Those are the biggest challenges that we've found, and we've put in solutions in place, and we've managed that in the planning stages. But as anyone who's here working in events knows, that it's only when you actually do it and you introduce 800 people to the building that weren't in last week and last time we had a behind closed doors game, that it still becomes an interesting challenge, and will no doubt present future things for us to look at and tweak and come back to. But with basketball as well as a sport, there's not only the considerations of having people come into the building for a publicly attended event, but also the sports side of it. It is very close proximity to the courts. There are things we have to do with all the players and the coaching staff and everyone coming in, from screening and doing advanced checks ahead of them getting here, how to accredit somebody in a socially distanced way and in a COVID secure way. Can you give out wristbands and lanyards and whatever else it is that you need to do? There are a lot of challenges that have been presenting themselves, and I think that it's just interesting to see the similarities drawn between industries. But the secondary spend, us not being able to open the club shop on a game night potentially, because do people want to take something with them and hold on to it, or would they rather order it online and have it just posted to them? These are questions that we don't necessarily know the answers to, and I think even retail have probably seen a drop in the sense that people don't want to go out onto the high street and touch something that somebody else might have touched. And there's all of these questions that we still as a whole industry need to kind of to answer it, but as a number of people have talked about as well, build up that customer confidence in putting these measures in place and showing people that we've got those measures in place as well is a really important thing for people, and I think all of us to try and do.
Well, thank you. Another lens on all of these conundrums, and we're hearing economic, we're hearing about the emotional behavioural side, we're hearing about the environmental, the experiential. I'm sure there's more ease if we used it. We're getting more questions in the chat, but I'm just conscious of time for everybody. Thank you so much, Dan. I wonder if there's any other questions to ask, if you can put them in the chat. We have got other members of the audience from different organisations around the Northeast. I think we're learning it's such a vibrant industry, we could spend possibly the whole day on it, but in the interest of protecting everybody's time, I'm going to hand back to Sarah Cox now to talk about how we take this all forward. What we've done today is open up a vast array of different elements to consider in solving some of these challenges for our region's vitality and economy. As some of you have already indicated, some of you might have part of the solution. Some of you might have the experience and insight to help develop some solutions that haven't already been invented. Wherever you're at with that, I'd like you to consider what Sarah has to say now. And thanks to all of our panelists, including those that we've not managed to reach because of time, but you can still contribute your thoughts through the chat or via us, and we will consolidate afterwards. So thank you to all of our speakers, panelists that got on screen, and those that didn't quite manage it, but we will come and involve everybody's views. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison, and thank you to all of our challenge supporters who have attended today and have helped shape the challenge up to this point. Just to give you a brief rundown of the technicalities that you'll want to bear in mind if you've been listening and think you might be interested in putting forward a solution or learning more. We have opened up our application form, which is now live on the website, and I'll share the link for that in a moment. The deadline for that is the 8th of January, and who can apply? So we are looking for applications from SMEs that are based within the Northeast LEP region, or by groups and consortia that are led by an SME who is based in the North East LEP region. And also there is the requirement that you've not received more than €200,000 in state aid funding over the last 3 years. Now, as we've mentioned, you may not be eligible for this, but you may be interested in getting involved either as a venue or an organisation to whom this challenge is important, and you might be interested in supporting testing of ideas or being kept abreast of the solutions that are developed in case you might want to implement them. Or maybe you're a larger organisation that would love to be part of solving the solution and isn't eligible for funding, but maybe wants to connect with businesses that are, or wants to discuss another way to be involved in the programme. If so, please do drop us an email at challenge.northeast@nelep.co.uk. So I'll quickly go through the stages for application so you can be aware of them and make note. We are making available our team. We appreciate, given this is COVID response, the timelines are naturally compressed, and unfortunately we're going in the Christmas period as well. Unfortunately, we cannot help that, but we have the application open from today until the 8th of January, and our team will be available throughout December and early January to discuss with you one-to-one your application if you're interested in putting one forward and need a bit more information, want to get a bit more insight into the criteria that we're looking for or how to make a strong application there. Please do email us and book in a one-to-one, and our team will pick that up with you as soon as we can. You can access the expression of interest form to put in your solution, and I'll quickly show you that page in a moment. We have kept it as light touch as possible, and I'll talk you through basically what it is we're going to be asking of you if you were to put in an application. What you are applying for is 100% grant fund of between £2,000 and £5,000 to develop a rapid early stage prototype that you can use to test out with an audience. It may be one of our challenge supporters, it may be an organisation that you've got your own relationship with, and we'll be looking to test that in some capacity between January and March. You'll be hearing, if you are successful, you'll be hearing in mid-January if you have been successful. You will get half of your funding up front, and you'll get half of your funding at the end of the programme once you've pitched your solution to us. And as I mentioned earlier, that money can be spent on staff time or in contracting the services you need to develop the solution. So it's effectively money for you to use and spend on developing this and putting the staff time towards it. You'll get the opportunity to learn from experienced business innovation specialists as we go into our rapid testing phase. We'll be enabling you to work closely with staff and organisations who would be using this solution, so you can demonstrate that it works. You can take into account all of the needs of the end user and of the staff who might be implementing it as well, so you can actually test that it works in practice, and we can make a good decision following that pitch as to who is best placed to take forward that, again, 100% funded fund of between £10,000 and £40,000 for the further development of those solutions that work through this programme. Full details are available on the Challenge Northeast website. We would really ask you to go there for any of your queries, but please, if there's anything you can't get answered at the moment, do drop our team an email at the Challenge Northeast email address. And this is just a quick screenshot of the website. We have now live our Challenge 1, which is the Together Again events challenge that you have attended today. Tomorrow we'll be having a similar event for the Safe Again Adapting Home-Based Services. There may be some of you in the audience who might be interested in attending that and similarly exploring the problem with some of the organisations that have been hardest hit within our region. We have here on the challenge page details that you will have seen when you have signed up. And now we also have that expression of interest form, which my colleagues will share in the chat box at the moment. You should be able to use this to apply. And as I mentioned, it's as light touch as we can make it with the waiting for the assessment there. So basically, what is your idea? How does it respond to the challenge that we've outlined today and the challenges you understand it through your engagement with the organisations who would use this? What specialisms do your team have? So why is your organisation or the partners that you're working with have the expertise to respond to this challenge and deliver the solution outlined? How are you going to spend the money? And what risks can you identify that you might have to consider and adapt to or plan for during that January to March period of rapidly testing the solution? So that's basically what we want, very light touch. And like I said, our team are on hand to have one-to-ones with you to discuss your application and support you in submitting that. We really do want to get a broad range of organisations that are well placed to respond to this and to come up with some really innovative solutions. We're not necessarily saying that it doesn't have to be a digital solution. We're looking for, digital companies to come forward, maybe events companies to come forward, community groups, new service delivery. We are not restraining ourselves in what it is that we fund through this program. What we're looking for are really well thought out ideas that highlight the I suppose that will best address the needs of our region, the organisations within this really diverse ecosystem of events delivery, and crucially our audiences and users. So think creatively, don't be put off if you are maybe a community group but have some really good ideas about how to tackle this. Please do come forward. And I will just finally have our email address. I want to say thank you for everyone who's attended. What I will do just before you go is I want to quickly launch our poll. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. What I'm asking from all of you is an opportunity to say, having listened to all of this, is there a particular area, either in the questions that we asked at the beginning or something that's arisen from you listening to the panelists that has made you think that you might want to put an idea forward? And also, are you interested in getting involved? We want to just get kind of a quick straw poll from the audience as to who here who's listened today has thought that this is something they want to apply for. Is it something you're keen on? Is it something you're considering, but you need to maybe get a bit more information to see how it lines up? Are you maybe at an organisation that would like to be more involved and wants to reach out to learn how you can test ideas and support the solutions that are coming through? Or are you thinking that maybe at this point it's just not for you? I'd really appreciate that if you would share. And before we wrap up, I'd like to invite any further comments from the team. We have some of our Challenge North East team that are joining us. Is there anything else, maybe thanks to the audience, or any points that you'd like to get across to our attendees before we wrap up the session today?
Just something from me, if possible, Sarah. I'm Adam Welby, Director of Innovation at the LEP. First of all, thanks to all the colleagues who presented today. I thought it was excellent in terms of hearing from what's going on. Gemma, particularly, I was touched by this, the policing that your team are having to do. It's just awful, isn't it? So, we at the LEP, we set this fund up. We also want to take a bit of risk on this. Not every EOI, obviously we've got a lot of them we'll be able to fund, but we'll try and get a wide portfolio of some. Ideally, there'll be some easy, quick wins, but also maybe there's some more risky things that we want to test. So let's really mobilize the community that we've got out there to try and find some solutions to the challenges that our organisations have painted here as well. And for the challenge organisations, please use your networks. I'm sure you're talking to people. Let's get out there. Let's get the solutions out there. Let's try and find solutions to what we're doing and make this terrible time into a success story alongside that. And Sarah and the team, thank you very much for a very slick and useful session today. Let's hope to hear more from you and engage with partners as we go on over the next couple of days and weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alan. And just to reiterate that, if you are interested, if you are in any way want to learn more, our team are available to you. We are available up to Christmas and also early in January. Please do drop us an email. We can discuss what we're looking for. We can discuss how you can put together a strong application and all of those criteria. So please do reach out, and particularly as well if you are a potential challenge supporter, if you want to test ideas or just be kept aware of what's being developed, please do let us know. And yeah, we do have I think in spite of the terrible disruption that we're facing and the disruption to our organisations, we have a real opportunity here to invest in innovative solutions that could really be part of. No one solution is going to solve the problem, but we can invest in a wide range of them that could, be a suite of tools that will really help our region, both for the businesses that take them forward and for the organisations that they're developed for. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you to all our panelists. Thank you to our team and our hard work in developing this. And thank you to all of our attendees from our innovative businesses and community groups and freelancers around the Northeast who we hope you'll be able to help us with this challenge. Thank you again.